Hi everybody, welcome back to Big Moto Gaming. I am your host, Big Moto, and this is...
Mike, aka Lost.
There we go. Guys, welcome back to the podcast for episode 3, and hopefully you are having yourselves a wonderful day. We have some exciting topics to bring to you guys, but first off, we want to talk about what happened the last couple weeks that we haven't done the podcast, the games that we were playing. We call this one like the weekly recap, and... Lost, I don't know. Do you want to start this one off on what happened to us this last Thursday? From your point of view?
The dice gods taketh and the dice gods giveth. It's like RPGs, right? It's all based on luck, and the DM definitely had luck on their sides as a unnatural amount of 17s on the dice were rolled.
That was crazy.
I really feel like there was probably out of that combat, like, I don't know. I almost feel like I'd almost say like half of the dice were like rolled as a 17.
Yeah, but
I was like, oh, look, 17 again.
I stopped counting after the 7th 17 from the NPCs. So that's when I stopped counting. So I don't know how many more were after that.
Yep, party got TPK'd. I tried to come up with some creative ways. I was even going to, like, after everybody was dropped, I was like, all right, you know what? They're skeletons. They're not going to necessarily, like, coup de grace everybody. I'll just let them make their death saves and then, try to wake up and then try to, like, scamper out and lick their wounds. And everybody failed their death saves with no penalties. Just the luck of the dice. We're not on the player's side.
Yeah, from my point of view, since this is my first time playing a 5th edition game where I was put into a death save situation, I've never even actually gotten close enough. So the first time ever doing death saves and the whole party gets wiped, I actually, from my point of view, I thought that was really cool, but, sucks that we got TPK, but I'm glad to see it happen, so I know what the experience was from my point of view, but it still sucked that our whole party got destroyed. But at the same time, we're rolling in with some bigger, heavy hitters. I think that might be what we really need instead of just the roleplay aspect. We need some actual heavy hitters.
Oh yeah, but it's when we're talking about that though, it's also something good to think about is, right, knowing your players and stuff like that, right? Because if I had, let's say, 3 brand new players to the game, first time ever playing, and it was technically the 3rd combat ever, right?
Right.
Because you had the very first one was the orcs that you guys beat, right? I think you got dropped on that one. And then
yes.
You had, I think it was it Ace or D that had the great idea to throw food at the wolves, and then they scampered off. That was technically combat 2.
Well, I think Ace actually did that. He was.
I think it was Ace,
which is fantastic for a brand new player to come up with that idea.
Yep. And then you had the skeletons there, and but the first 2 are very basic type things. In that I would say that I mean the orcs were technically like a real combat, but the skeletons were the first like real combat. And had it been like a total party kill, right? Just remember, as a GM, if you have brand new players to the game, you can lose them where they're like, I don't necessarily think I like this game. So you got to make sure you pay attention to that.
Right. Yeah, like from my point of view, being a seasoned D&D player, that was just that didn't bother me at all. I'm glad to see that Ace was happy enough to automatically jump into. He wanted to make a ranger, like he already had that idea. So that means he liked the game enough that he literally thought of a second character right off the rip, which I think is a good sign.
Yep, I agree. And yeah, and I think being, like you said, more of a veteran player, you're able to look and be like, we're rolling bad, they're rolling really good. This encounter is going to be extremely difficult if we survive.
Yeah, like, oh, Jeepers Creepers. And even the time, because I was playing a cleric at the time, and I got off one attack action and I was hoping to make it so the skeleton, because I was trying to do radiant damage. If it's anything like other editions, radiant damage does extra to undead. So I was hoping to at least kill one of those things. Chat or viewers at home, everything else, we didn't kill a single skeleton, not a single thing. No, did we kill one? I think Ace actually
You
took down
got
one.
one of them. I have to
Yeah.
think. I was like, I'm pretty sure you got one, and then he did knock another one prone,
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you did a
but
pretty
that
good
didn't
job.
last long.
Oh my goodness gracious. Let's see. And then, Lost, have you been able to play any other games that was not our boys' night?
Yep. So, my other game, they advanced a little bit farther into the Blue Alley. They're still in it, so they beat or they basically decided to do was it always take the left wall or whatever, just follow the left wall all the way around. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
the mantra that they're doing in this in the alley, or the mini dungeon essentially. And so let's see, how did that one go? They found a couple of secret rooms. They started noticing some writing on the wall, so they're trying to put together kind of like what it means, if anything, like little snippets of like a longer sentence. Um,
I'm
so
like,
they've already kind of started seeing that.
I think I played this one that you're talking about, because now that you're talking about those things, I'm like, I think you had us try a Pathfinder
Yep.
game like this once. So okay.
Yep, probably. Like I said, I have glutton for reusing those intro modules for starting campaigns off. They're my like Kickstarter, because it's like you're not really going to gain more than like maybe a level or two at most, and then everybody kind of has a feel for their character before you jump into the actual campaign. So that way, if it's like, yeah, I thought I'd enjoy playing, a thief, but I think I want to be a ranger, or I want to be a wizard, or
Yep.
whatever. It's like, okay, let's flesh that out before we get into the meat of the campaign. But they did find, or they beat a minotaur. Um, they they it was kind of funny. So in that module, spoiler for anybody, uh, you grab so you walk into this room. It's like a, was it 20 by 20 foot room, and it's got two silos connected to it, and you have to hold uh, both sets of horns. There's like a basically like a minotaur skull in both of them, and you have to grab horns in both silos, and then a minotaur will appear, and it has a key around its neck. But if you let go of either one of the horns, it will basically go dimensional teleport again in a way. And every time that you do that, you basically are summoning a new minotaur. So if you had knocked it all the way down to 1 hit point, and then you let go, and then you grabbed it again like next round, well, it's a brand new minotaur, full hit
I
points
did not know
and stuff
that.
like that. Yep.
I didn't know that
So
from my point of view.
they did that like 5 times. Might have only been like three or four, but they're testing the waters on some stuff, and it was kind of funny. I was like, so I use Fantasy Grounds for my monsters and stuff like that, and we're all online. So I have it set up to randomly roll hit points. So
Oh, okay.
there was a couple of times where it had a lot of hit points, and they had like knocked it down pretty good, and then they let go because they're getting whooped, right? Because it's a group of five, and they only had three of them fighting it because two of them were holding onto these horns, and then they would let go and they would summon it, and I was like, oh, it actually has less hit points starting off than it did when they let go. I was like, oh, good for them, and they had gotten the lowest summoned one. They had gotten halfway through its hit points before they let go again, and I was like, oh. And then the one they defeated, I think, had almost, it was like 3/4 of like the highest for what it could have had, and I was like, oh Jesus. But they ended up beating it, and then they went into the next room that it unlocked, and found that well, they thought the chest was a mimic, but it was the ceiling. So when they opened the chest, the ceiling dropped down onto the players, and then they had to fight a mimic. So
That's funny. I like that one.
yeah.
Well, for my game that wasn't part of our boys' night, we're doing a fifth edition game. We're level 7 at at this point, and it is a big. We're playing in a zombie apocalypse world where we are taking on zombies. Yet there's this total. The my DM is making what do you call it? I guess sharing things. Her own version of special creatures. She just calls them monsters. Is just for a good general term, and it's been actually a lot of fun. We especially with Butters around, he actually nicknames all the creatures because it. She'll say what the actual name of the creature is that she came up with, but without like an actual like wizard saying, "Yeah, I know that's this creature." We got Butters over there saying, "No, this is a whatchamacallit." Something like
Nice.
that. And he records everything. He literally draws out bad drawings of everything, and everyone's like, "Okay, that's what these these monsters look like, or these really bad drawings." And it's terribly funny. I will say, like
Nice.
it is great.
That's
But yeah, we're doing some adventuring, and we call it, and then we also found out that dragons are dying, and the monsters are trying to eat the dragon's essence. And
Hmm.
it's been a big plot line with that one that we're trying to go with. And then today, right, just a couple hours ago, we did a long session. This is probably the longest session I've had with this group of friends. We went to a. We were set off to sea to look for texts on an old god and whatnot, and then we went island hopping, and then we came across this tranquil, beautiful city, and the beautiful city had something dark in its thing, and oh my goodness gracious, I kept on yelling at everybody. I'm like, we need to leave this port and nuke it from orbit. Being a sorcerer of fireball sorcerer, I just kept on saying we need to nuke it from orbit. Oh my goodness, it really
Really
everybody, and I want to say everybody got into some big role play there, like
nice.
monologue, good long role play, which is I think it's always fun. Even though we never, this is now actually two sessions in a row that we did not roll anything for. There was no combat. It was two play sessions of art role play, but I feel like there's a war brewing where it's going to be like several combats in a row going to be coming, or sessions of combat. Looking forward to that. Now, Loss, you were just talking about that you like on your fantasy grounds. You like to do the random HP of your things, and
Yep.
we have been people, or ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching on YouTube, Facebook, and on YouTube Music. We've been getting some suggestions on topics to talk about, and one was metagaming. Do you think what you do with the random hit points is a way that you automatically thought in your head to combat metagaming to figure out people's hit point? Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Sure do. When I remember and it's going to be a segue into one of the other topics, kind of like the rules lawyers or the people that are like constantly into the rules and stuff like that, right? And I'd seen the random hit point option on there, and so I turned it on, and this was years ago now. Back when on Fantasy Grounds Classic, I was probably, oh Jesus, I don't even know. It was a long time ago. But I turned it on, and the guy was like, "Oh, these are fine," because it was goblins, right? And it was some, they only have, it's like 13 hit points or whatever it was, right? So like they took the first one down, no problem, because I think the first one actually was like random, like right around 13. They rolled enough to drop it, right? But and then like the next one had like double the hit points because it had rolled really good. So then he was like, "Hey, like I don't understand, like you can't be changing these monsters, like they're supposed to have this many hit points." And I was like, "No, I just rolled for each one. That's just the average,
yep.
right? So that I don't do averages anymore. It's all random." He's like, "Well, how are we supposed to know how much damage we're supposed to do to kill him?" And I'm like,
You don't.
"Well, it's this range. They do, it's 3d6. So they're going to be between 3 and 18 each one." And it's there. He's just like, it just like blew his mind. So that was one of the ways that I used, because I was noticing like you get those people that number crunch and they're like, oh, this is easy. All we have to do is this many points, and you can divvy it up, and it's very like mathematical in their head where they're like, all right, action economies like all plays out. So then you throw like a little wrench like that in, they're like, what do you mean? Like it throws off everything. And it's
The
like, oh,
methane adding
gotcha a
up.
little bit, right? So yes, in that respect, that was one way that I had kind of taken out of uh, metagaming, right? Make them on their less on guard.
Yeah, like whenever I see metagaming or things like that as a DM, uh, if you see metagaming, that is free range to mess with any block possible, or change around the adventure path to screw with people like that. That I'll get like, oh, you gave me free reign. Yep, this is now my world. You have cheated. Yeah, it feels like they're just plain Jane cheating with the metagaming. So I'm just like it. I've decided this is what I'm going to do. I've had a few people that will because I used to play adventure paths a lot more there, and some people read ahead or asked me after the session like, where was this thing? I'm like, well, you never actually got to that room, but they told me that they were reading the adventure ahead for the day. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yep, I had a player of mine. We were playing Curse of Strahd, and then we were in Death House. And in one of the rooms, there's a secret room, right? So the spoiler alert, it's the library room. I want to say it's on the second floor. And
I've yet to play Curse of Strahd, so
gotcha.
again, I have no idea anything about it.
Yep, but they got into the room, and then like they're sitting around and just like, hey, I'm gonna like measure with my feet on the size of the room. And it was one of those things that was like,
What?
that's odd,
Yeah.
right? And he's like, I'm gonna go outside and like measure this, and like it's just not adding up. And I was like, although I really appreciate that you're trying to like role play the like your character like figuring this out, like if you had done that in other rooms
Yeah.
as well, I wouldn't have even considered it like whatever. But then I was like, because I had asked them, and I was like, did you read the adventure? And he's like, I'm not trying to like read ahead, but yeah, it's like, well, why? Like, why?
Why did you
It's
ruin it for
not
yourself?
right. Exactly. That's exactly right. Right. You're literally ruining the story for yourself because you're not trying. Like, to me, the games aren't about winning and losing. It's about the story that you're telling together, both DM and the players.
I'm like, I have one caveat to that. When people say it's all about the story and whatnot, a lot of times I'll just say it's about surviving. I've been in
Yeah.
some games where the end goal is just to survive the campaign. It's
Yep.
rough. I have not been in that kind of game in years, but I've been in several where it's just like I just need to survive this.
Yep. But I will say, like, there is appropriate metagaming.
Yes.
Hold on. Oh, Jesus, sorry.
Yeah.
There is appropriate metagaming. Where it's like the thief and the paladin, right? You're metagaming because let's face it, right? In we'll say, real life here, they probably wouldn't adventure together, right?
Right.
So you're metagaming a little bit to have your paladin turn that blind eye to, that type of stuff to keep the party together and moving forward in the story, right? That is appropriate metagaming. It's like, like I think I've said in the previous podcast, right? I don't want to say I encourage inter-party conflict. I definitely allow it, but you need to have a resolution to continue the story together.
Right.
Right? If you are trying to make the inter-party conflict, like, well, my character would just walk off then. All right, well, I guess you're rolling a new character.
Yeah. I'm like,
then.
okay.
Like, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and like, sorry, well, this is the story I'm telling. If you don't want to be a part of it,
Yeah.
and then find another group.
Hand over your character sheet because that just became an NPC for me. Thank you.
Hmm.
Let's see. I'm
Hmm.
trying to think of things. Metagaming. Like there's obviously good metagaming, and now as a player, sometimes you need to do some metagaming to help out your other fellow players because you don't know somebody's hurt, but you're like, I need to. For some reason, DM, can I be looking out my window at this certain point? And oh look, my here my buddy's getting jumped in the
Sure.
alley. There's always
Right.
that kind of good metagaming, but
Yeah. Or oh, do I hear, the player like is getting mugged in the back alley or in the side room? It's like, oh, do I hear anything? Can I make a roll for that?
yep.
It's like, okay, like sure, if it's appropriate or whatever. Um, oh, there's something else and I'm drawing a blank now.
Drawing blank. Let's see. What are some?
Oh,
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was say, what is your take? And I know we do at our table, right? But it's still metagaming, right? Oh, we need to make a perception check. Who's got the best bonus? Or we need this or that, right? So
Yeah.
like in one of my next games, I definitely want to come up with a way to um
That's
almost like it'd be awesome if you could just have the stats on character sheets, especially for online. It really only worked for online. Well, it could work for it'd work better and easier in person, like with pen and paper. But it's like, hey, here is you don't get your stat. You know what I mean? Like you're just rolling a d20. Like I will tell you, like you know how to do the following skills, but you don't know what those bonuses are.
I'm like, there's something I don't remember if Pathfinder Second Edition or is that something in First Edition, or if I just heard it on some podcast stuff. A lot of DMs will ask for several rolls ahead of time, and
Mhm.
just say like at this point this is what their role is, but then you're also taking away some player agency with the people that want to aid because I know my table there's a lot of people that like I would say I call them Santa's helpers. They want to be that they want to give aid to everybody, and that's more of the thing they want to do. Okay, this is one thing I don't quite understand. Fifth edition to give aid. Do you just say give aid and then they get advantage on the roll, or do you have to roll and get a number like in third edition? Because you had to get over a 10 on a dice roll to give the +2 bonus in third edition. Is that how fifth edition works? You have to roll and just get a flat check of a 10 or higher. Do you know?
So that's how I do it, but that kind of goes in with, right, when you play so many different games, it's so hard to keep track of specific rules, especially when there's multiple like D20 type things, right? So um you could do it. So in fifth edition, it's a help action, right? Or aid, whatever. Um I don't think there is a role for it. I'm looking
Okay,
online right
because
now.
that's
Like,
what I was just in our last game. Butters would say, I give aid to this person," and then they just rolled for how we call it. They rolled advantage, and I was like,
yeah,
there's no
yeah.
check anymore."
There's no role, and the reason I still pretty much make people make a roll of those is so, and it kind of goes down to like fifth edition, right? Fifth edition is very
Rules light.
well, I can't, yeah, I guess like there's still a lot of rules, but it's like it's
Kind of
very like I don't know, I don't want to say streamlined because that sounds like oh, it's a streamlined game. Like that's a really good game. And I'm not knocking fifth edition. Like I play it, I run it. Um, but I run it because it's just easy. I guess that's the best way to describe it, right? It's a very easy system and but it's hard for me sometimes because I am more of a crunchy player, right?
yeah. Like I'm
I don't like my creamy games. I want a little bit of crunch. I want some,
I
it's like, oh, I don't want everything to just like never mind. I'm not going to go that route. I'm not going to say that.
And we just annihilated a few bunch of our listeners.
Right? Well, I was about to. Uh, but no, it's because I like failure, right?
Yes.
I like the struggle, right, for the players,
There's a story
right?
to be told with failure. There is a
Right.
great story to be told that you failed to overcome something.
Yep, and that helps with character growth, right? You can't grow unless you fail, right? And that's true both in life and in games. And so for you to be able to just give aid and let people roll with advantage all the time, like there's no point in that, right? So it's like, oh yeah, go ahead and make a roll. Like unless you really critically fail, I'm probably not going to uh penalize it at all.
Right.
But now there's consequences, like, oh, if you critically fail your aid, he's going to roll with disadvantage. And it's like, ooh, do I really want, like, that's a possibility.
Yep.
So, like,
I like that idea. I think that's a worthwhile thing. But at the same time, if your buddy who's aiding you rolls a natural 20, what do you give the benefit to the person who got the aid of the natural 20? Do you automatically think in your
nothing.
head? Nothing. Okay. Like you can either
Nope.
think in your head that okay, I'll lower the DC a little bit more because they made it that much easier. That's what I
Oh, yeah,
think
I
in my
guess I
head.
might do that. I might do that. But yeah, like, realistically, like, there's more to lose by you trying to aid somebody than uh, for them to gain by you aiding them, other than, they'll get advantage. So you really should only aid if in the most needing of circumstances, because if you do it all the time, right, you're just going to waste that luck, and eventually you're going to fail critically, and it'll be at that most inopportune time, as most things are.
Like we tried to attack a skeleton and son of a bitch.
Yeah, you
I'm
guys
not
are about
bitter.
to attack skeletons and zombies this next turn.
Yeah, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. Stupid skeletons.
Just so the viewers know as well, we left that session off with new characters made to go find their old adventurers. With, I think, your new character, the paladin,
Yep.
grabbing the shoulder of your, now essentially it's a zombie. Don't ask me how it happened. You'll figure it out later.
Magic.
Yep, it is magic. Because the three players were in that same room, huddled around, and you thought they were just scared. So you grabbed it. They're going to turn and basically is going to bite your hand, or at least attempt to. And that's where we ended session, with the new player characters facing their zombified old characters.
Which is fantastic because then I like it. It's something that I automatically think of whenever I'm running games or even a module for that. The world is always evolving. It's always as soon as the game begins, the world clock has begun, and that means like for a lot of the time in my head when I'm thinking about the greater scope of the game, the what is the BBEG doing, and that clock is moving, and then what's the lesser BBEG? Because normally I find a lot of modules run with there's 3 tiers of BBEG. There's like your 7th level, your 12th level, and then you got your end boss. And the end
Yep.
boss is affecting the worldwide thing, and everything is just downgraded from there. And so I automatically think like how is a dungeon keep evolving? Like what's the some things like and some people I've told to because this would happen in the Emerald Spire as soon as you got down to the next level of the venture, the dungeon comes alive. It is now it's on its own ticking clock. These creatures are spawned in, if you would, and they're moving and grooving. I like the idea. I love the and my cat has decided to jump back on. Oh my goodness gracious! Please, kitty, do not attack my microphone.
Cat's about to be in attack mode.
Yeah, I'm like I think she was actually messing with a bunch of the dogs earlier, and then yes, issues there, listeners and viewers. Where was it going? Oh yeah. Any more things we want to talk about the meta game? Like, I don't know. Like, you got good things, bad things. What are some things we can help other DMs think about metagaming? I guess. What are some, like you said, the random health thing? A lot,
Yep.
a lot of time I like to do is yeah, I like to change around health of things or role play reason why this creature has a different AC than what's said in the book. Like
Oh yeah,
there's always
or
has to be a role play reason. I don't do it out of spite, but there has to be a role play reason why something has changed in my head.
yeah. The only things I would say, not necessarily spite wise, but where you can kind of change things on the fly is, let's say the module that you're playing has a specific type of dragon, right? Just change the color. You know what I mean? If it's not story driven, if there's no way they would have known the color, and they are going after, they're like, oh, it's a red dragon, right? Like, hey, so it's like they start talking about, oh, it's a red dragon, the thing, like this is what we got to do. Start prepping for it all. Make it a blue dragon, and then have them be like, what happened? Like, this is not what we're prepared for. Well, did anybody ever say it was a red dragon? No, only you guys said it was a red dragon. Nobody actually looked
That
into what color dragon it was. So like
would be
change it up
interesting.
on them,
I would love
right?
to be a fly on the wall for that thing. Like what was the signs that they missed? Because uh
Yeah.
yeah, there's this, Kitty, would you?
But that's just the only like quick off the cuff. If your creature has like an ability that they are metagaming preparing for, and there's no way that they would know for it, just change it.
Yes.
Instead of it being fire, make it lightning or water or unholy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just change it, and then if they're like, hey, like, what's up with that? Well, I don't know. I changed it.
Yeah, like
Like, you
I'm
wouldn't
allowed to
know
change
that. Not
things.
my fault. Exactly. And kind of like we were talking about before the podcast, it's the rules aren't really rules. They're more guidelines, is how I run it. You said you're more of
I'm a
the
rules
rules are
lawyer.
rules.
Yes.
Yep. And I am more of I run fast and loose with the rules. I will make a call and then have somebody start looking at the books and then either go with it or not go with it.
Yeah. So the other thing people have asked us about is what we think about rules lawyers and everything else. And I became a rules lawyer back early into my third edition kind of somewhat career, because if you can argue as a rules lawyer, or the reason I think rules lawyers exist is one, to get their way, which is can be a good thing and a bad thing, because I've been in games where I've been screwed over by the DM because and I had to use the rule to set it straight that I didn't get screwed over. And I think it's a defensive. I think rules lawyers is a defensive mechanism, and then eventually people become offensive with it or selfish with it.
Mhm.
But I've noticed with fifth edition, uh, the rules aren't as I don't know, they're fluid, or
Yeah.
they're not. Like, I keep looking for like certain rules. I'm like, where's the this?
It's rules light.
I feel
It's
like
very rules light. Like,
yeah,
there aren't rules for everything. Or it's just like you said, the aid, right? Hey, I'm gonna give him aid. All right, cool. Hey, roll with advantage. And I'm like, I don't like it's too fifth edition is too light for me.
like it's a
So I
good
I add
starter.
extra rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I'm like fifth edition feels actually specifically made fifth edition fantastic for your new player, your noob, and whatnot. Um, okay, I just thought of two different things that just came in my head real quick. Lost for you, since you played fifth edition for so long. I heard the thing saying that fifth edition at higher levels is better for a player, worse for a DM. And then I heard other way that Pathfinder, the higher levels they get, is easier for a GM over a player. Would you agree with that, or any word
Um,
into that?
I can't really speak to that because I don't think I've really had groups that go past level 10.
Okay, and
So,
I've had a few in the mid range to epic level, but not enough to uh, I can only think of half a dozen. Oh, maybe I gotten up to 10, maybe in the
yeah.
20 years we've been playing.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the game that we're running, I can take you guys all the way to level 20. I got a
Oh,
couple of different I got a couple of modules lined up, some custom stuff, and then basically a revisit to a module would
ooh,
be good.
ooh, spicy. I'm looking forward to things. Yeah, I'm like I've I've been a rules lawyer for. Oh, okay. So for I was kind of saying I've been playing D&D for 20 years. I bet I've been a rules lawyer for 17 of those years. Like
Yeah.
I feel like this is something as a DM I really do rules lawyer stuff is it's fair to everybody. I didn't screw over somebody. Is like I don't know. It's something in my head. I don't like screwing over people because I've had lots of games where I got screwed over in the past or I've been targeted in the past for and the 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 call off the hip shot was a bad play for me. I'm just to the point where like as a rules lawyer, I like as a DM I want to make everything right down the center. That way I didn't screw
Yeah.
anybody.
Well, and a lot of that, I mean, it can happen, obviously, right? Like I said, I run a lot of times fast and loose with the rules, but like I still have a baseline. Like most of the time, I'm not coming up with a rule that I am creating myself. It's like, you know what? I liked how this ran in 3.5, or I like how this ran in a whole different system, right? So it's like, I'm going to use that. And that's what I'm going to call this time. We can look up the rule. And if the players are like, hey, once it comes down, it's like, hey, this is what the rule is. Be like, all right, cool, we'll know that for the next time, and then we can go to that rule. But a lot of times I'll make that hip fire call in the moment. That way, we're not like, all right, pause, lose the immersion, and then pick it back
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Sometimes it's hard to get back out of the immersion when you have to. Oh, everybody stop! We got to find something for some reason.
Yep.
Oh, I saw an interesting question. And I wanted to see what your feedback would be for this one. If you had like a group of people, so it's say 3 to 5, 3 to 6 people, and they all had to be one class. As a DM, what class would you want them to be that would bring like to be the best story for you to tell? I thought that was a fascinating question. Like, what is the
Now,
one
when we're
quote?
saying one class, but
They have
as they level
subclasses.
up, they can.
No, they can't multi-class out of it, but they can have their subclass.
Okay, so they could different subclass,
Yes, they can
different
subclass
feats.
feats, all that kind of stuff. But they cannot. So, for example, if you chose everyone has to be a barbarian, they could never take one level into druid or something like that. They have to be.
Right, sure. Yeah, no multi-classing, but I got it. So, ooh, this is tough because if I were to do that, like, there's so many different ideas that just pop to mind, right? So it's like,
That
at first I was thinking barbarian, right? And it's like, oh, you could run like a gladiator style game. That would be fun.
would be fun.
But then I was like, okay, but that's, a gladiator style game, or it's, you could also further restrict it to the same race. And then it could be like a war campaign where they're doing stuff,
Ooh.
right?
They
So you
kind of feel
could, in
Conan in a
theory,
way.
sure, right? So then I'm like, okay, that'd be kind of cool. And then I was like, all right, same thing with like a fighter. You could kind of, in a way, do gladiator, definitely. But then I'm like, I'm trying to think of more broad set, and I think I'd have to go with ranger, just because they're that like mid tier that can kind of go, you know,
Huh, I
you
never
can
thought
have more of
Ranger.
a rogue-like ranger, right? That can kind of fill that, because I feel like the ranger is the best, not the best, but he's a very good. proxy, right? It's like they can do a little bit of everything, just nothing really well. So it's like,
Unfortunately, yes, you're or at least in fifth edition.
yeah. So there's that. Or if I wanted to have a lot of fun, I'd say Bard.
That okay. Bard would be a fun, like, I feel like that would be a great one shot. I don't
Yeah.
know how long that could go in the long run. Who knows? That if you have the right group, any game can go all the way.
It would have to be set up as like a gypsy game, right? Where you're traveling and like what shenanigans are you getting into?
Correct.
It could be a great campaign. I don't know if I could say campaign. It would be like I could make it last a few sessions for sure,
Yep.
but I do see it like you'd have to have a start and the end that are not crazy far apart.
Correct.
But I mean, fighter would be good because there's a lot of variations to fighter too.
Yeah, my fighter's my number one choice because you got the Eldritch Knight. So if someone really wanted to use magic, you have that for an option, and then you have all the other fighter types, all different weapons. They could be archery, fists, shield, blah blah. Fighter is so universal. I think is the number one pick just for the universality. But I thought would be an interesting thing is a full set of clerics. Because they would all compete to talk about which god is probably the number one god. And could a cleric try to convert another one? That would be interesting. That would be an interesting game. It'd be, you could get some really good ideology, and then you can because clerics are also versatile because they can choose different weapons. They can wear heavy armor. They can be the tank. They can be the healer. They can be the DPS.
Yeah. I mean,
they could do ranged if they really wanted to, or they can be the spellcaster, divine and arcane, because that's what the idea with my character was. I was going to be the arcane cleric. Didn't make it past level 1. That's salty. That's salty at all.
Yep, that happens. Yeah. Trying to think of. I don't think I would want to do, or I wouldn't want to do druid. I don't think I would want to do druids.
That would.
But then I'm like,
weird.
I start thinking about it, and I'm like, I mean, you could kind of do it because you could do Druid of the Moon, which is the tank.
Is there a shapeshifter druid?
Yeah, that's the Druid of the Moon.
Okay, all right.
Yep, they're the ones, turn into a giant grizzly bear and turn into this and that and the other. Okay. Eventually turn into elementals and all kinds of craziness. So it's like, you have, again, right? I guess you could make any class work. I think some would be significantly easier than others.
Yes.
Because, I don't feel like a group of wizards or sorcerers would be very good.
No, unless you didn't start them at level 1 and you had a group of sorcerers. If it was what the hell is that game? A political intrigue would be interesting there, because they can use a charisma more than just their spellcasting. They could just be a talkative thing.
Yeah,
I think it would be also interesting a full group of rogues. Because you could be a brute rogue or stabby rogue and all that.
Yep. In between smattering of magic.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot arcane trickster. Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't even think of that. And then let's see. Our last subject I really wanted to bring up today's podcast is we were talking about this, and you said that you would like my your answer for this, but so. Ladies and gentlemen, Lost and I have been playing Dungeons & Dragons for 20 years or plus, and we started out playing with each other, and then obviously life got in the way, and we get to rarely play with one another for games. And I stayed with 3rd edition or 3.5, and then I went into Pathfinder 1st edition, which actually Lost got me into 1st edition Pathfinder, and I stayed there my entire GM player experience until literally last year. I've been strictly a Pathfinder person for that long. I did not like fourth edition. I tried it. I don't remember anything about it other than I disliked it so much. Like, and my entire table did not like it. They did not want to play it, and I stayed with Pathfinder, which if you've never played Pathfinder First Edition, is almost cookie cutter of 3.5 with some with the options turned up to 11 compared to things. And Lost, you upgraded to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition out of what was the system you played before 5th edition? Actually, I'm not sure because you never touched 4th edition. So did you go from
Correct.
third
I was
to
3.5. Then I started Pathfinder a little bit, and then back to 3.5, and then pretty much straight to 5th. And yeah, so
and
I think yeah.
what was the big reason why you decided 5th was the best system for your table?
Okay. Lack of options. That's where the player base was.
Oh yeah,
So it's one of those where it's like, I I will say I think D20 is my least favorite system, right?
really
Yep, I would say
spicy.
D20 is probably my least favorite systems. But it's also the system that I play the most and DM the most.
Right,
Why? That's where the players are, right? So,
like 95%
you
of
know,
the players play D20.
right. Yep. So, I'm not saying I hate D20, right? Let's just be clear. I don't hate D20, but it is my least favorite. Um, I right now, like my favorite system currently is Savage Rules. There's stuff about it that I don't like that I want to change, but overall, I really enjoy it. It's what it says, fast, furious, and fun. Um, D20, like I'm very familiar with, obviously, right? I've been playing it for years. Um, it does fantasy really well. But I just feel like in other genres, it just falls really flat. So yeah, the player base, right? It's easy. I can jump right into a D20 game and I know how to play it. It doesn't really matter the system, which is nice, right? It's kind of
Right.
I look at D20 as like the universal, right?
Yes.
Uh that is kind of the standard, if you will. So but yeah, so if I wanted to play, well, then D20 it is. And since I'm pretty particular with my GMs and I can't just jump from table to table and have fun because uh game masters annoy the living crap out of me half the time and then I don't have fun. So I am a
Interesting.
forever GM.
All
Yep.
right. I'm like, I actually, interesting tidbit I want to throw out there. I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about Dungeons and Dragons and ADHD, which I have ADHD to all the listeners at home. That if you ever saw my YouTube channel, you know why I bounce between games and I'm just like a little squirrely. But they were talking about that uh, how hard it is for an ADHD person as a player trying to like because they have the focus and then when it's not their turn they have to stay connected with the game and they were kind of going through all the different things and then they were saying one of the best things you could do is with ADHD is be the DM because you're always engaged and I have that like like that hit me in my soul. Like
Yeah.
I love being the DM because I'm always like I get a lot of what is called the hyper focusedness of ADHD, where I'll be focused on one thing, and when I'm a DM, I'm hyper focused on being a DM. Like everything else goes out the window.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm like something about being a DM is just fantastic for that. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting tidbit. Do you think? Do you like GMing for like? Do you have any kind of ADHD problems like that, or you just like it for the? You like being a player or DM because, like you were saying before, because you don't. A lot of DMs are just not up to your standards.
I wouldn't necessarily say standards, right? They're just not right. It goes back to our earlier podcast, right? I am a very particular player. I like a more serious game. right? Don't get me wrong, like you can have a little bit of fun, but like most of the GMs that I have played for or played with run like goofy games, right? And it's all, I don't want to say stupid, right? Like it's good for them, right? It's good for
Yes,
them,
yes,
but I'm just like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever been doing, and like it makes me not want to play, you
yes.
know. And I thought back when I was in A school, almost 20 years ago, I had pretty much I had gotten with a group, and I was like, I'm done. Like this is the player base and stuff that's like now, like I was like, I'm done. And I actually stopped playing for like a year because they had just soured me
Ooh.
so bad about it, right? Because it was like, hey, we're a really big role playing group, like we're really heavy on role playing, and I was like, oh, sweet, like this is gonna be great because I like role playing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and they were not. They were backstabby. They were like just like all the stupid things too. Like the GM would not. Um,
Was he a pushover?
no, he wasn't a pushover. He was just
Oh.
real like very uh controlling like everything, right? So
Ooh,
like
one of
I forget what
those.
class I was, right? But like I think I was like a rogue and I'm like we had like a rogue and a monk, me and my buddy, we were playing, and we both could like change forms. I don't remember much about this anymore, and it's driving me nuts. But like
It's 20,
all I
20
wanted to
years.
do, right? But it's like we were trying to be with it, right? And it's like, all right, fine. Like, it's a silly game, but whatever, right? We want to do this. And so I was like, hey, I just want to find a basic brass ring, gold. Like it doesn't have to be anything crazy, right?
I,
And
now that you just said that, I remember you bitching about this thing.
right, because like, fine, we're playing this stupid game. Everybody else is doing this stupid shit. And I was like, all right, fine. I want to find a ring, right? And he's like, why do you want a ring? And I was like, well, because I'm gonna like me and my friend here, like we're gonna put our rings together and we're gonna say super thief powers activate, form of like mist, form of I don't even remember what it was, right? But and he was like, that's dumb. We're not doing that. And I was like,
Oh,
what do you mean we're not doing that? Like, who gives a crap? Like, this is like out of all the crap you guys are doing, like, we want to find a ring. And like, we go to stores, he's like, nobody has rings, nobody has rings. And I was like, really, dude? Like,
yeah, like, what?
why?
What? What do
Like,
you
I
mean they
can
don't
use
have
the
rings?
power, right? I can use the power, right? Regardless, right? So, like, it's literally just
Cosmetic.
uh cosmetic, and you don't like the cosmetic. So, like, who cares? Like, it's not changing rules, it's not changing anything like gameplay wise
Huh.
other than me and my friend like putting our super thief powers activate, doing the Wonder Twins thing. And he didn't like it, and it was very, like I said, he was very like, no, it's very particular. He was very like, he was a rules lawyer, and
It
but
doesn't
he was
sound like
also
he
a
was
control
good at
freak.
rules lawyer. He
Well,
sound
right,
like a
but he was
control
very
freak.
like he was a very big control freak, right? And like I said, right, it soured me for a while. Like I was like, I'm done. And
Interesting.
then picked up a game again later and got with a good group, and well, now
Uh,
here we are again.
I think another big thing that happened when we uh, parted ways from our being on the same D&D table is
Yep.
you've been all around the world playing
Hmm.
games with everybody, and I came back to our small little town with the same set of people. Basically, I've evolved a few different things from neighboring towns and whatnot, but for the most part, especially me that owned all the books, I can say no. We're gonna play this game because I'm the forever DM, and I want to play Pathfinder, and everybody built them things. And you going all over the world, Dungeons and Dragons is the standard. There's
Hmm.
everybody knows the term Dungeons and Dragons,
Yep.
and
Yep. And
yeah,
D&D is used as the staple term. Like, oh, let's go play D&D. It's like, well, we're playing Savage Worlds. So like, oh yeah, I know. It's like,
right,
but like we're playing
like
Savage like superheroes. Like, yeah, we're playing D&D. It's like, but it's not. That's like you're driving a Tesla saying, I'm gonna go drive my Ford. It's not the same. They're both cars,
yeah,
right? But they're it's completely different, like
I think it's the same thing behind what people say a tissue and a Kleenex. Everybody says it has to be the Kleenex, even though it's a tissue. It's interchangeable.
Yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons it covers the entire hobby, which it should be technically TTRPGs, tabletop RPG. Yeah, is the technical term for the thing in general, but for some reason D&D has just become the staple word to say or lettering.
yeah, it is. Anybody that talks about tabletop role playing games will use D&D as the reference, no matter the system. And obviously, right? Not everybody, right? I don't mean everybody,
Well,
but
yeah.
it is. Yeah, that is the generic coined term for TTRPGs.
Yes. Um, yeah, I'm like even when I tell people like when I'm playing Vampire the Masquerade, I'll just say I'm going to go play D&D because I don't know how else. Like for example, to my parents, I'd be like, "What are you
Yep.
doing on Sundays?" I'm like, "I'm going to go play D&D." They,
Yep.
they know that term. There's no way in hell if I said Vampire the Masquerade, they look at me funny. Like what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
like,
It's easier to explain to non role players when you say, "I'm going to go play D&D." They're like, "Oh, okay, I understand what you're going to do. You're
you
going to go be a nerd."
yeah. This is my nerd time. I've been uh everything else under the head. This is my nerd hat time. Which talk about okay. Really, we're talking about A school and C school there. Um, During boot camp, when we had a little bit of downtime, we actually did a game of Dungeons and Dragons with a group of us in the like a back corner where the chief never got to see us. And
Me too. What did
oh
you
yeah,
use for your D20?
I took our hat off and did a cut pieces of paper and 1 through 20 and I pulled it out.
Same.
Yeah,
Exact same.
I don't even remember the game anymore, but I'm like, we did that for five 5 days of the
Nice.
thing. Then obviously you didn't have a whole lot of time off to yourself at boot camp, but that
Oh,
was
yeah.
something we did. But you
Yep.
did that too. All right, I thought,
Yep. Exact same thing. That's funny.
yeah. I'm like, hey, that's really funny. All right, let's see, chat. We have one last question, but before we go to the last question of the evening, is make sure you guys, if you haven't yet, over on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, helps us out. Everybody over on Facebook, hit that like, hit that follow button. If you are listening, I know a lot of people have told us that we need to get our stuff on Spotify and whatnot. We are hoping to get this stuff on Spotify. I just need to get some time to put our podcasts on, and then all the episodes will be up there too. So if you guys are on Spotify, I don't know if there's a like button for a podcast. I don't listen to podcasts on Spotify. Do you, Loss?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So if you guys are listening to this in the future and you're on Spotify, hey, this is the moment that we're working for. All right. Our last question, chat, is somebody asked us, is there a way to become immortal in Dungeons and Dragons? And we right before the podcast we discussed this, and we didn't have a lot of things to like really come up with. I thought of the wish spell. You could ask to be immortal. Be like that's a generic boom.
Cop out.
Yeah,
Cop out answer.
yeah, basically.
Cop out answer.
The other thing is lichdom.
Yep.
I
I'd say that's another like cop out. Like technically any undead, right? So,
Right.
if you get reanimated, technically, but I don't think that's the intent behind like immortal, right? Like lichdom would be, right? I would agree with that. Vampires, right? Becoming a vampire.
Yep,
You
I
become
forgot
immortal.
about that. Wait, hold on, one second. I wonder if for immortal, does he mean just not be killed? Like in general, just can't be killed or can live forever? Because
So
that's the difference between.
Right. And when people say immortal to me, that means you just don't die from aging. That is my immortal definition, right?
And I automatically think of impervious to damage, to dying from damage. I think of that from Dragon Ball Z. I think when Frieza's like, "I want to be immortal," is because he wants to live forever and not die.
Right,
So
but I
that's
don't think
where my programming is.
now I would say like generally like for immortal, right? You don't die from damage, but you're or not die from damage. You don't die from old age, but you are generally more hardy. But like if somebody were to take like if they were to cut your head off or like shoot you in the brain, like you'd still die.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like you're not invulnerable, right?
Yes. Okay. That's the
So
difference that it needs to be is invulnerable
yeah.
versus more.
So I would say yeah, immortal is just like you're not going to die from old age or poison or like you don't die from natural causes. Let's go that way,
Yes.
right? Um or probably like disease or stuff like that, right? You're just kind of you will live forever unless somebody kills you outright.
Um.
So yeah, like witches immortal, vampires, right? They're immortal, but you can still kill both of those.
Yep.
Uh
Some other
you could be
things.
cursed, right? Opposite of a wish, right? You could be
Correct.
cursed with immortality. We talked about the monk. They get the timeless body. Obviously, that's 3.5
Third edition
or
and
Pathfinder.
I don't know second edition Pathfinder. I'll look right now. I have the book right next to me. But and I
Fifth
think fourth
edition,
edition might have been that's no monk wasn't in fourth edition.
yeah. Paladins, I want to say in fifth edition have an undying feature around level 15 for certain ones. So that's a undying. So technically that would be immortal. Um, obviously any race that's technically immortal,
Yeah, like
but
elf,
that
and
well, elves aren't immortal. They just live for depending
I've
on the source you look at for thousands of years.
like I have not heard a game where the elf has just died of old age. I've not I've never come across that. Like yes, and he lived to be 10,000 years old and just peeled over the next day. He's always been killed by something. I don't know. This
Yeah.
15th monk at 19th level. I don't see timeless body unless it is earlier in as a wall of text. I don't want
Yep.
I don't want to spend the rest of the podcast looking reading a wall of text. That's one thing. Oh, all right, so I have the Pathfinder core book from when they came out in 2019, and they just released this last fall a revised one for their because of the OGL scandal. They have the redesign for the Orc license, and where they took the core rule book and they split it into two things. It's now the core players book, so just core rule book is core players book, and then core GM book. Have you bought those yet?
Nope.
I've not bought them. One of my one of the guys I play with on Sundays, he has it, and as I understand it, they laid out everything so much better. Like it is way easier and better to read. And I've noticed something about Pathfinder Second Edition and Fifth Edition. There's just wall text, and I don't quite like it like I like Third Edition, where I get to see like a pre 1 through 20 with a little minor text, and then you get the wall text. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like. You get all these options. I'm like, no, just give me a little section, please. Okay, let's see. Other ways to be immortal. Become a deity,
Yeah.
demigod. So hit level 20 and okay, level 20 does not mean you're a deity or a god. Just so viewers at home, that is a hill I die on. When you start getting to the deity levels is when you get past level 20. I think that's the 21. That's when you start going down the path of deityhood if you aim for that, because you still have to get followers no matter what to become a deity. You don't
Yeah.
automatically become a deity. But once you have a divine rank, that's when you technically get your life forces, right on the money, or the number changes. You become immortal. but gods can die too, obviously. Okay, I'm like, if the way the question is worded, I don't think there's anything that cannot not die in any
Correct.
Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons, anything.
Yeah, I would agree. If it has a stat block and hit points, it can die.
Yeah. Oh, I because of the game we were just playing, I was looking through the basically the fifth edition's equivalent of the Drama Comic Con, and I found the stat block for the aspect of Tiamat and the aspect of Bahamut, and I didn't know once they hit level 0 or hit points 0, they automatically gain 500 hit points and revive with all their stuff and everything. It's literally phase 2 triggers.
Nice. Oh, nice.
Health rate 30,
Yeah.
and if they hit 0, they come back to life with 500 more hit points, and all their legendary actions and resistances up and running again. And you have to eat through almost 1,200 HP worth of things in one day, because if that thing gets a short rest, and I do mean a short rest, it gains that ability back again.
Nice.
Is a challenge rating 30. So it's just like,
Yeah.
what?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm like, because.
But Andy, you got to think about, right? Like it's a deity. So if you drop it down that far, right, to where it resurrects, it knows you mean business.
Yeah.
So if you're playing where the monsters aren't stupid, it's probably going to try to escape,
Yes.
lick its wounds, and reset.
And rip your campaign through the roof.
Yeah, it's I didn't know that, but
I just discovered
Palladium,
it today. It's insane.
Nice. Yep. So Palladium Books actually has a deities and demigods book, source book. It's for their settings for rifts. So that one actually has a lot of, I don't want to say real world gods, right? But like basically gods that people would be familiar with, right? Aztec type gods,
Okay.
like all the different types of gods. And well, they have hit points. So technically you could go after them. So
yeah, it's a game.
yeah, it's a game.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless there's something I can't think of a single thing. Even everything has a stat block. There's one thing from third edition, not even 3.5, but third edition, that the stat block was. I think the lady was called Lady of Pain, and she was the only person to have question marks in everything. But the challenge rating was a triple trick question mark. So that was the only thing they've ever released. It was like a dungeon magazine or something like that. It was whatever. I remember I actually got to see the creature, and it was the only thing that ever had a triple digit challenge rating symbol, because every other thing that has ever had a question mark has always been 1 digit, two digit. So it can be a range of things.
001.
Yeah. It was actually a point. We didn't know that. It was a 0.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all right, chat. Listeners, everybody else, God goodness gracious, it's hard to get out of podcast mode and streaming mode. I blend them together. All right, guys, this is gonna be it for the evening. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed all this BSing. Lost, anything you want to shout out to the listeners at home?
Oh yeah. As Modo says, if this isn't your type of to podcast or whatever, still hit that like and subscribe button. It still helps out the channel, still helps out stuff, and you can always like, subscribe, and what is the term I'm thinking of? Mute notifications or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you could still help out the channel and not have to listen to us. So so like win-win.
It's a win-win, guys. If you just want to help us out. Let's see. The only thing I want to tell everybody listening at home, guys, here on YouTube and Facebook, I am still a live streamer, so we'll do this podcast whenever we can. But I'm also doing World of Warcraft Classic streams in the evenings as much as I can. So if you ever want to talk to me live or If I have Lost on, if you want to talk to any of us live and bring up questions and whatnot that you want us to see our live reactions, come jump into the stream. Like I said, I'm just playing World of Warcraft. I'm doing a leveling thing. I'm having a nice chilled, relaxing evening. So if you got any questions or even an argument, I'll even argue with you guys. I'm not picky. So if you guys want to jump in, feel free. Let's see. And oh yeah, guys, because I'm a multi-streamer, I stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Trovo, Twitter, and on Instagram. So really appreciate if you could drop some likes and follows over there. We are growing every day we do these kind of things. So yes, I just want to throw that at the tail end of this one. But all right, other than that, I'm gonna Big Moto's signing off, huh? Yeah, I think we're good.
Yep,
we're
sounds
good.
to me.
All right, chat. We'll see you guys for the next thing. If you have a question or comment, or if you want to hear more things, and you don't want to come in a live stream, just drop a comment. We'll see the comment and we'll bring it up in the next podcast. If you want a different reasons why rules lawyers are rules lawyers, or more, you have a different specific question for like metagaming and whatnot, drop it down in the comment section. We'll make sure we'll revisit you. All right, guys. Love you guys. See you. Have yourselves a wonderful day.